of us over the age of 16, it is likely at some point that we have had a job. And that means that we've had a boss or superior at our job that drives us up a wall. A boss that becomes the topic of all the gossip at the water cooler. A superior who is the reason for all the venting sessions at the dinner table when you go home. Throughout history, there have been plenty of infamous boss figures, known for their outlandish and often immoral behavior. Last week we profiled the man known as the Boss, George Steinbrenner, the legendary owner of the New York Yankees. But this week, I want to profile the boss of all crime bosses, Al Capone. Capone attained notoriety during the Prohibition era of the United States. He led many multi-million-dollar gambling, bootlegging operations, and other unsavory schemes throughout the 1920s. During his 7-year reign as the crime boss of Chicago, he quickly became the most infamous gangster in American history. After being convicted for his crimes, Al Capone served a total of 4.5 years in the famous prison of Alcatraz before being transferred to a terminal illness island prison in Southern California, where he eventually passed away. 100 years later, the life and death of Al Capone continues to fascinate fanatics of 20th century organized crime. Many believe it was of Capone's reckless behavior that his famous nickname Scarface came about. Legend says that after Capone insulted a woman, he was slashed 3 times on the left side of his face by the woman's brother. When Capone's underlings saw his wounds, they gave him the nickname Scarface, a name that Capone absolutely loathed. However, it was the legend of Scarface that led to the making of one of the most famous movies ever made, using that famous nickname and the title as inspiration for the movie. So, tomorrow, many of us will go to work, and maybe your boss isn't as violent as King Nebuchadnezzar, as impatient as George Steinbrenner, or as just straight up unlawful as Al Capone. But they definitely aren't a walk in the park to deal with. You may have difficult coworkers that drive you up a wall, or in my case, some of my difficult students. You'd love to improve your work life and your professional relationships, but quite frankly, you're not really sure where to start. Well, in the final part of our sermon series titled The Boss Man, we will review and discuss 10 biblically endorsed strategies found in the book of Daniel to help accomplish our workplace goals. Throughout our study of Daniel chapter 1 and Daniel chapter 2, we have seen Daniel, our faithful employee, demonstrate 6 positive workplace behaviors so far. At the end of chapter 1, we witnessed Daniel make a good first impression to the king by demonstrating, number 2, his service and castle, his ability to serve in both the service and the castle. However, in chapter 2, King Nebuchadnezzar has a troubling dream which prevents him from sleeping. Frustrated that he, or no one for that matter, can interpret the dream, he threatens to kill the members of the king's service. When Daniel, who is a man blessed and anointed by God to interpret dreams, finds out about the decree, we witness Daniel, number 3, offer a solution to help solve the king's dilemma. Daniel demonstrates a willingness to, number 4, collaborate, asking his friends for help in the means of prayer to ask God to reveal the dream's meaning to Daniel. Then, number 5, we see Daniel seek wise counsel from God, who provides the interpretation to Daniel, where Daniel seeks to, number 6, give credit where credit is due, immediately praising the name of God and thanking him for providing and protecting him and his friends. So now that we're all caught up, let us try and figure out the 4 remaining strategies located in Daniel 24 through 36 of chapter 2 and verses 46 through 49. The word of the Lord. Then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, "Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret the dream for him." Arioch took Daniel to the king at once and said, I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means. The king asked Daniel, also called Belteshazzar, Are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and interpret it? Daniel replied, No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown the king Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in days to come. Your dream and the visions that pass through your mind as you were lying in bed are these. As your majesty was lying there, your mind turned to things to come, and the revealer of mysteries showed me what is going to happen. As for me, this mystery has been greatly revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than anyone else alive, but so that your majesty may know the interpretation and that you may understand what went through your mind. Please skip to verse 46. After Daniel had interpreted the dream, King Nebuchadnezzar prostrated before Daniel and paid him honor and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him. The king said to Daniel, Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and the revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal the mystery. Then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him the ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all of its wise men. Moreover, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego administrators over the province of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court. The word of the Lord. Immediately, in verse 24, Daniel exhibits our seventh strategy, exuding confidence. Notice how Daniel has his full trust in his God-given ability of dream interpretation. He approaches Arioch, the leader of the king's guard, and proclaims, Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret the dream for him. Now, in the beginning of chapter 2, we witness the king's magicians who make a very similar claim directly to the king. However, by the magician's tone and body language, the king immediately recognized that they provided no real solutions. Believing that they could outsmart the king and interpret the dream out of thin air, the magicians exuded not confidence, but cockiness or arrogance. And it's this behavior that leads to the decree to put to death the members of the king's service. Daniel approaches very different than the magicians in many ways, as he exudes confidence throughout this entire process. Remember, when Daniel approaches Arioch, he technically has the royal order to kill Daniel on the spot. It's Daniel's bravery to approach Arioch even after the decree that has a major part to play in the story. He doesn't hide from Arioch and try and sneak into the king's presence without him knowing, which I have to imagine would have impressed Arioch. However, before Arioch can bring Daniel to the king, he too needs to be confident that Daniel has the correct response, the correct interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Because after all, if Arioch were to bring Daniel into the king's presence and Daniel incorrectly interpreted the dream, it would likely be the last of him as well. However, Daniel's confident body language and sharp request provides immediate assurance to Arioch that Daniel could get the job done. In fact, Arioch is so convinced by Daniel that he puts his own seal of approval on Daniel's ability, without Daniel even proving to Arioch that he knew the correct thing to say. Arioch says, I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means. Personally applying this confidence to our job can lead to much more respect from your boss and colleagues. Gaining the reputation as the confident person in the office will likely lead to more opportunity in the workplace. By developing your body language and speech to exude not arrogance, not cockiness, but confidence, you can turn into someone that people trust to get the job done. When Daniel begins his interaction with the king, we can see Daniel exhibit our seventh strategy. Be transparent. When the king asked Daniel, also called Belteshazzar, "Are you able to tell me what I saw in the dream and interpret it?" Daniel doesn't hesitate to tell the truth. No wise man, enchanter, musician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about. Now, beginning his encounter with the king this way was pretty risky. If we go back to the beginning of chapter 2, we can recall the magicians telling the king this very same thing, and it did not go well for them. Now, if King Nebuchadnezzar had any sense of reality, which I'm sure he did, I am sure that he was aware that his dream interpretation request and his murderous decree of his own service were completely over-the-top reactions. There was no way a man by himself could accomplish such a supernatural task. The fact was that he was frustrated and angry and decided in the moment to take his anger out on his employees. And by show of hands, how often have all of us witnessed something like that from our boss in the workplace? I know I have. So, what makes Daniel's interaction different? Well, Daniel provides the explanation that while no man can answer the king's request, there is an all-powerful God that is all-knowing and can share his knowledge with whomever he pleases. Not, I will have shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the days to come, but he will show King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the days to come. Keep in mind, the king had witnessed over this whole time Daniel's God give him the strength during the fast. Daniel's God bless Daniel with the wisdom and ability to interpret dreams and give him the courage to approach Arioch and the king after a decree was given to take his life and the life of his friends. Through Daniel's transparency and openness, the king receives confirmation that Daniel would no doubt follow through on his word because his God, our God, the God, was in control. The reason we often feel we cannot trust our boss or coworkers or our clients is because we feel as though they are out to get us. We feel like they are only in it to accomplish their own goals or agendas and do not actually have any interest in our well-being. I know I sure feel that way sometimes in my workplace. But when we utilize this strategy in the workplace of being transparent, we can begin to build honest and real relationships with the people around us. Of course, one should always maintain a professional level of distance from colleagues, but becoming more approachable and trustworthy is a direct reaction to one becoming more transparent about their motives, values, ideas, and actions. After Daniel interprets the dream, we see the king acknowledge Daniel as the problem solver, our ninth strategy. Throughout chapters 1 and 2, we have witnessed Daniel, our faithful employee, be a problem solver over and over. Problem: unwilling to eat the royal feast due to dietary and religious restrictions. Daniel's solution: fast for 10 days and prove to the king's admin that his allegiance was to God and God alone. Problem: kings have a dream, and only God can interpret said dream. Daniel's solution: with the help of his friends, pray to ask God to reveal the dream to him. Problem: king threatens to kill the entire service after they cannot interpret the dream for him. Daniel's solution: receive the dream interpretation from God, share it with the king, sparing the lives of the service members. When you gain the reputation as a problem solver, good things usually happen. First, your boss may grow a stronger appreciation and respect for you and your work. In the story, we see the king prostrate himself before Daniel, which literally means to lay oneself flat on the ground, face downward, in reverence or submission. That seems like pretty high praise and appreciation to me. In fact, if I have a good concert this June, I'm going to fully expect my principals and teacher friends to do the same thing. Second, being a problem solver usually leads to a monetary raise. We see the king pay Daniel honor and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him. In the business world, we see commissioned workers get rewarded for meeting their sales quotas, or marketing consultants build up their salaries by convincing businesses to sign contracts with them. When you are able to provide consistently solving problems and provide results for people in the workplace, you will hopefully be compensated for your hard work. At least it should. And lastly, solving problems leads to promotions or better jobs. In the story, we see Daniel get promoted to a prestigious position of leadership in the Babylonian Empire. We can also see here how God works behind the scenes to put his people in power. Now, God could have just mind-controlled Nebuchadnezzar into promoting Daniel if he really wanted to, but he didn't do that at all. It's not in God's nature to be mind-controlling anybody, but to give them the free will to serve him or to deny him. Notice how God continued to put Daniel in situations where he could earn the promotion fair and square as long as Daniel trusted God. And after Daniel demonstrated his allegiance over and over, God rewards Daniel with the promotion, raise, and respect from his bosses and his peers. We can utilize this model to observe that the God of the Bible is not one who instantly gratifies our every desire. He's not a genie. The God of the Bible requires us to strap on our boots, put on our big boy and big girl pants, and be contributing members to society, continuing to solve the problems of this world through the guidance of his word. And lastly, our final strategy is to lead and elevate the other people around you. Consistently through chapter 1 and 2, we have seen Daniel lead and elevate his three friends, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, or referred to as their Babylonian names in this chapter, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. This type of leadership we see Daniel utilize in this book is referred to as servant leadership, which essentially means that you serve the best interests of your contemporaries, while never asking them to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. It is Daniel's example that helps the men remain strong and persevere throughout the Babylonian re-education process. When the three men are unsure what to do regarding the royal feast, it is Daniel who takes the lead and accepts the fast on their behalf. When Daniel is given the task to interpret the dream, he calls on his friends to help him pray for God to reveal the message to him. There is obvious respect given to Daniel throughout this whole book, from his friends to his enemies, due to his willingness and desire to not seek his own self-interest, but to serve the interests of others, to lead without a personal agenda, but truly and honestly serve his Creator. One thing that impressed me, however, is when Daniel received his promotion, he doesn't forget the people who helped him get to where he was. At Daniel's request, the king appointed his three friends as administrators over the province of Babylon to help him rule. As a rule of thumb, if you're ever promoted into a position of power, you can avoid becoming a Nebuchadnezzar, or a Steinbrenner, or a Capone by surrounding yourself with people who have your best interests in mind and a similar mission. Support and promote the people who have had your back all these years and give them leadership roles on a project or some sort of thing to help them, energize them, give them purpose. Deviate roles and responsibilities to the strengths of your employees. Reward them for their success and be patient with their failures. Be the boss man or boss woman that you've always wanted. So, in conclusion, whether you're the employee or the boss, whether you work in a school, the office, the firm, or even your home, we can utilize the following strategies to earn respect from superiors, co-workers, colleagues, clients, family, and friends. Number 1, leave a good impression on other people, especially those we have never met or people we haven't seen in a while. Number 2, demonstrate your value to that person through your thoughts, words, and actions. Number 3, offer solutions to problems rather than make excuses. Number 4, collaborate with others to gain unique perspectives. Number 5, seek wise counsel from those who have more knowledge than you. Number 6, give credit to those who help you accomplish your goals. Number 7, exude confidence in your ability and your work. Number 8, be transparent and open about your limitations. Number 9, gain the reputation as a person who is a problem solver. And number 10, if you are given a position of power, be the boss you've always wanted to have. My friends, I wanted to thank you for watching this full sermon today, and I'd also like to invite you to a Sunday worship service at 9:30 at Danbury Church of Christ. Following the service at 9:30, we will be holding Bible classes for all ages starting at 11 a.m. We hope to see you there.